Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John, and today I have a ranking of the entire Scorpions discography. So before I begin, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. And I upload about one video per day. I will be ranking 18 studio albums. I won't be including any live albums. I won't be including the one they did with the orchestra or any of their various greatest hits. I'm going to try to move fairly quickly to keep this at around a 15-minute runtime. Coming in at number 18 is Eye to Eye. This one was released in 1999, and this was just a very pop-oriented album. To me, it sounded like something the band U2 would put out during the 90s. The guitar rock was completely gone. They completely changed their sound. They did have one moderate hit called Mysterious. That one reached 26 on the Billboard rock tracks. But this album is somewhat forgettable, and it's just a complete departure from the Scorpion sound, and probably most fans of the Scorpion would have this ranked at the bottom. Coming in at number 17 is Pure Instinct. This was released in 1996. And the problem with this album is that it just has too many ballads. The songs aren't memorable. And even the cover, it's just bad. It's just at the same level of like Iron Maiden's Dance of Death. And for that reason, I have it at number 17. Coming in at number 16 is Unbreakable. This was released in 2004. And this is a return to form. The two albums that I just spoke about were not really that great, but they're kind of like coming back into form on this one. This album is actually pretty good. I think everything I talk about from now to the rest of the video will range from good to great. Now, the album features Klaus Meine on vocals, Rudolf Schenker on guitars, and Matthias Jabs on guitars. And they also have a new bass player called Powell Masiwoda. This album has some decent songs, it's just the songs are not very memorable. So for that reason, I have it at number 16. Coming in at number 15 is Return to Forever. This was released in 2015. And this is also their most recent album. This album is straightforward hard rock. The songs are pretty good. I feel like the other albums are a lot better, but this is a decent album. It has some good songs. We Built This House, I Have a Storm, Going Out with a Bang, and Rock and Roll Band. So I have this one at number 15. Coming in at number 14 is Sting of the Tail. This was released in 2010. And this was supposedly going to be a farewell album, which was released right before their farewell tour. I think it's a very good album, probably their second best of the post-90s Scorpions. There is one album that came out in the 2000s, which I will be ranking fairly high later on. But this album has a duet with Tarja Turunen from Nightwish. The name of the song is The Good Die Young. And the main theme of this album is basically it is a rock record. Many songs feature the word rock, such as Raised on Rock, Rock Zone, Let's Rock, and Spirit of Rock. So I definitely recommend this album to anybody interested in checking out their more recent material. Coming in at number 13 is Lonesome Crow. This was released in 1972, and this is their debut album. It has Klaus Meine on vocals, Rudolf Schenker on guitar, and by the way, those two members are the two members who are on every album. But this also features a very young Michael Schenker, who was about 14 years old at the time. It's not a bad album, it's just a completely different sound. It has a 60s rock sound mixed with a little of psychedelia. It also has the original version of the song In Search of Peace of Mind, which appeared on the most recent Michael Schenker album. So if you're interested in hearing the Scorpions like before they developed their sound, I definitely recommend checking this out because it is a very good album, as well as the next one I'm going to talk about. Coming in at number 12 is Flight to the Rainbow, and this was released in 1974. And this is the first album which features Uli John Roth. This album continues in that same 60s rock psychedelic sound, but it has Uli John Roth, and he brought in this like Jimi Hendrix influence. So you hear that a lot on the tracks. The most notable tracks are Speedy's Coming, They Need a Million, This Is My Song, and Drifting Sun. And all those songs were played live like during those years. The title track in Speedy's Coming did appear on a live album called Tokyo Tapes, and that's actually a very good album. I highly recommend it. Coming in at number 11 is Face the Heat. This was released in 1993. This is a very good album. And it was released in the middle of the grunge years, and it has like a little bit of that influence, but not like too much. It's very hard rock. There's a little more of a metal edge. It's a little heavier than the other ones from the 80s. The song Alien Nation, this is probably one of my favorites. Unholy Alliance, that's another great song. And the album in general is very underrated. It gets overshadowed a lot by their other albums that came before it. So for that reason, I have it at number 11. But the top 10 is just classic Scorpions. Okay, let's continue. Coming in at number 10 is Virgin Killer. This was released in 1976. This is their second album after they kind of like defined their hard rock sound. So from here on in, all the albums have this classic hard rock sound, basically up until like the mid 90s, of course. And those two albums already talked about, and they're at the way bottom. But this album has Uli John Roth. Two standout songs are Picture Life and the title track. These are classic Scorpion songs. This album was very influential for the heavy metal genre. Coming in at number 9 is In Trance, and this was released in 1975. And this was really the album where they defined their sound, their hard rock and heavy metal sound. This also has Uli John Roth. And my favorite track is called Robot Man. It's not really one of the big well-known hits, but I really love that song. But other notable tracks are Dark Lady, and the title Trance is really good. This is another album, very influential on the heavy metal genre. And I think this is the album that, you know, many Scorpions fans would recommend somebody to like start if they're like starting at their early material. Coming in number 8 is Savage Amusement. This was released in 1988. It's a very popular album. It has two big hits, Rhythm of Love and Believe in Love. This is more of a hair metal album. The songs are very good. The album has Klaus Meine, Rudolf Schenker, and Matthias Jabs. And other than the two songs that I mentioned, there are a lot of very well-written, really good songs that are very melodic. It does capture that hair metal sound of the late 80s. And I definitely recommend checking this one out. Coming in at number 7 is Humanity, Hour 1. This was released in 2007 and by far their best of the modern albums. It's a concept album. It's about a futuristic world with humans and robots, and there's a civil war and an apocalyptic landscape, and you just tell me that, and you mix in the fact that this is probably like one of the most like heavy metal albums. The songs are like really heavy, and for that reason alone is just not, that's why I like it, and that's why I have it at number 7. You know, I think the fact that I have this pretty high is probably causing controversy, you know, directly after the ones I just mentioned, but you know, I listened to it. I just recently found this album. I like it a lot, so I'm ranking it at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Crazy World. This was released in 1990. I really like this album a lot. I remember when it came out, and the lead single was called Tease Me, Please Me. I actually remember it being premiered on MTV, probably Headbangers Ball. But this is one of the most famous albums. It has Wind of Change. That's like their most well-known song of all time. It has another ballad, which is probably even a better ballad, called Send Me an Angel. It's a really great song. If you haven't heard it, definitely check that one out. And this is a solid album all the way through. I like it a lot better than the two previous like 80s albums. It has this 80s hair metal style, but it's done like very well Like I said, I highly recommend it. Coming in at number 5 is Love at First Sting. This is probably the most popular album from the 80s. One of the fan favorites. Probably a lot of people would have this at number 1. It has their biggest hits: Rock You Like a Hurricane, Still Loving You, Big City Nights. Those are the biggest songs, but the rest of the album is really good. Bad Boys Running Wild, it's a really great song. I'm Leaving You, Coming Home. That entire side 1, it's solid. I just really love this album. It's great, but there are still 4 other albums I like better. Coming in number 4 is Animal Magnetism. It was released in 1980. This is one of their classic hard rock and heavy metal albums. It has Lady Starlight, and this is their only song to include a string arrangement. It has The Zoo, that's one of their big hits, and that's about New York City. And it has just a lot of other great albums just all the way through. I really like the song Only a Man. You have to like read the lyrics to find out what it's about. It's kind of funny. And this is just a solid album, and I have it at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Lovedrive. This was released in 1979. This is another solid hard rock heavy metal album. This is the first album to feature Matthias Jabs, who replaced Uli John Roth. Another solid album. It has 2 big hits, Lovedrive and Holiday. I think Holiday is one of my favorite ballads, of all time. But another great songs that are not really big hits or very well known, but it's just a solid album. You have Another Piece of Meat, Always Somewhere, Can't Get Enough, and one of my favorite like deep cuts, Loving You Sunday Morning. You got to listen to that song. It's like so melodic and really great song, so check out that last one I just mentioned. Number 2 is Taken by Force. This was released in 1977, and this is a very heavy album, especially for the year it came out. This is the last album with Uli John Roth. The best song and one of my favorite songs is The Sails of Sharon, one of the heaviest metal songs of the 70s. Another one I like is called Your Light. This has a really great opening riff. It just sticks in your head. And another really heavy song is called He's a Woman, She's a Man. And this has this verse section, and it's almost like proto-speed metal. I definitely recommend checking that song out. This is just a great album. I actually discovered this one, fairly recently. And I have it at number 2. That's how good it is. At number 1, I have Blackout. This was released in 1982. And for those of you who watch my videos and pay attention to my background, you probably knew this was going to be my number 1, right before you even clicked on this video. This is a solid 10 out of 10 album. One of the best albums of the early 80s. It has big hits, Can't Live Without You and No One Like You. Some really great deep cuts, China White, When the Smoke Is Going Down. So if you're new to the Scorpions, I definitely recommend starting here. This is definitely my favorite album cover and my favorite album. Okay, that is it. Let me know in the comments section if you want to give me your Scorpions ranking, or do a small ranking, maybe give me a top 5 or something like that. Let's get a conversation going. Let me know what you thought of my ranking. Is there anything you would have put higher or anything you would put lower? Let's talk about it. And let me just go over the next things, because it's a new release weekend, what's coming up. I haven't written down in my notebook here. The new Cannibal Corpse, I'll do that one. The new Greta Van Fleet, I really like that band, I'm gonna do that one. The new Offspring. I was a big fan of the Offspring in like the late 90s or mid 90s to late 90s. So I'm gonna do that one. Temple of the Dog has an anniversary, the 30th anniversary. I think that is tomorrow, so I might start with that one. And Liquid Tension Experiment 3, I'll get that in at some point also. That is it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.